Conflict is pretty much as old as humanity itself. It's this ancient arena. But now, something completely new, something different, is stepping onto that battlefield: artificial intelligence. And look, this isn't just about faster jets or bigger bombs. This is a massive shift, one that's forcing us to ask some really tough questions about the very nature of war itself. So the way our source material for this explainer looks at this whole thing is really fascinating. It frames the entire discussion using this powerful metaphor of a mirror. The idea is that AI in warfare, it isn't just some new gadget. It's a mirror that reflects our own intentions right back at us. So the real question is, when we look into this mirror, what are we going to see? A path to a better future? Or just a more efficient way of acting on our own worst instincts?
All right, so first up, let's look at the bright side, the bright reflection in that mirror. This is the promise of precision. Proponents argue that AI could actually make war less brutal, protecting human lives, and maybe, just maybe, reducing suffering on a massive scale.
And this is where AI's insane processing power really shines. We're talking about algorithms that can churn through more satellite data in an hour than a human team could analyze in a month. This is a game changer for intelligence. It can streamline those impossibly chaotic supply chains and power defensive systems that can react way faster than any human ever could. It even helps medics on the ground. It's pretty incredible.
And this isn't just theory, right? This is happening now. A perfect example is Project Maven. The US military used AI to automatically go through just countless hours of drone footage. The whole point was to let the AI do the tedious, heavy lifting of spotting things of interest, so that the human analyst could focus on what really matters: interpretation and making the final call.
And that right there is the pivot. This one question turns everything on its head. It takes us from that bright reflection and forces us to look at the dark one. It is the knot at the very center of this whole debate. If a machine makes a fatal mistake, who's on the hook for it?
Okay, so now we have to flip the coin over and look at the shadow this technology casts. We're talking about the deep, ethical anxieties that come with handing over life and death decisions to an algorithm, and the very real fear of losing meaningful human control. So what everyone is really worried about are these things called lethal autonomous weapon systems, or LAS for short. Now, let's be crystal clear about what this means. We are talking about machines that are designed to make the final kill decision entirely on their own. No human in the loop, no final yes from a person. That's a huge leap from a tool that helps a soldier to a tool that completely replaces them. And this is what creates what people are calling the accountability gap. See, with a human soldier, you've got a clear chain of command. There's a person who takes moral and legal responsibility. But with an algorithm, that whole chain just dissolves. So who do you blame? The programmer? The commander who deployed the system? And think about this. What about bias? An AI trained on flawed data could amplify our own prejudices at a terrifying scale and speed. But the risks, man, they go way beyond just one mistake on the battlefield. You have to think about the bigger picture. The psychological distance this tech creates, it just erodes empathy. The moral injury a soldier suffers when they're forced to trust a machine's judgment over their own conscience. And you know it's going to trigger a brand new global arms race. And then there's the really scary scenario: creating an intelligence that could one day decide that we are the problem. But here's a radical idea from our source material. What if the problem isn't the technology at all? What if the real battlefield isn't out there, but in here? It's about the choices we make.
Yeah, this brings in another perspective from a character in our source called Fletcher. And the idea here is that this moment in history, it isn't just a military challenge. It's a spiritual one. It's a chance for us to evolve, to get past our old destructive patterns, instead of just putting them on autopilot.
And this is the core of it, right? The powerful reframing Fletcher offers. What if we took all this incredible analytical power, all this money and ingenuity, and instead of pointing it at our enemies, we pointed it at the problems that create enemies in the first place? It's a completely different vision, isn't it? Check this out. Imagine using AI to sift through data to predict and diffuse conflicts before they even start. Or using it as a universal translator to help diplomats actually find some common ground. It could optimize humanitarian aid, getting help to where it's needed most. And by automating all the boring logistical stuff, it could free up our minds for the uniquely human work of empathy, compassion, and building peace. And that brings us right back to where we started, to that mirror. The technology itself, it's neutral. It isn't inherently good or evil. It's just an amplifier. It takes whatever we pour into it and makes it bigger, stronger, and faster. So, when you boil it all down, The key insight is this: AI is a mirror. If we come to it with fear and aggression, it will reflect a more destructive and terrifying world right back at us. But if we approach it with wisdom, with a genuine desire for understanding, it could reflect something so much better. The choice, as it always has been, is ours.
Our source leaves us with this one last, pretty chilling warning. The real danger here isn't aggression, it's abdication. It's giving up. When we outsource our hardest human decisions, our conscience, our judgment, our empathy, to a machine that has none of those things, we don't just risk losing a war, we risk losing a piece of ourselves.
So that leaves us with a final question, really. A question for all of us. As we stand here gazing into this incredibly powerful mirror of AI, what are we going to choose to do? Are we going to use it to polish our weapons? Or are we going to use it to finally clean our inner selves?